I made it. I think I'm here. And I even have the right mic going, I believe. Oh, and I think I have holiday lights because I am so darn festive. Hey, everybody. I hope you are doing well. Mason. Oh, you were ready. Mason, I appreciate that. Mason was going to take the lead for entertainment purposes. Oh, hold on. I should mute that. All right. Hopefully I didn't mute myself there. Yeah, nobody wants to hear my email notifications, but anyway, so yes, welcome. I'm gonna put. Oh, did I set this up? I did. I set it up. All right. Adhesive strips for iMac repair. Royal Mail decided to go on strike and not deliver my strips. Oh, so I think it goes without saying that's clearly what duct tape was made for. Don't let the name fool you. I don't know anybody who actually uses it for heating ducts. So anyway, hey Lewis, it's good to see you. No car today. Is that related to the strike? We'll see. I don't know. iMac without magnets. So I don't know how old everybody is here, but if you were a computing person in the CRT days, magnets were something interesting to bring to school. In fact, I worked at a school district for a long time, like 12 years or so, and it was a Macintosh based or an Apple based school, and kids used to like to bring in magnets just to mess up with the CRT screens, the Gaussian effect, or you had to like go and degauss them. But the thing is, a lot of times a regular CRT monitor, and by regular, I mean not Apple, where it was like an iMac all-in-one or whatever, they would have like, if you go into the settings, in the menu settings on like a standard CRT monitor for computers, there was a degauss thing. And usually you'd have to do it a couple times I don't know what it did, but it would, poof, 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 and it eventually fixed the colors on it. But it was tough. I don't remember how we fixed it on an iMac, to be quite honest. We might not have. I think eventually after a while, they would degauss themselves, like that. The weird color stuffs from magnets would go away. But anyway, it's funny. Lewis and Mason are talking. You know what I should do? Maybe for the next one, I'll try to get an overlay of the chat on the live, like on the screen, like here or something, so people can actually see if you're not in a browser where you can see the chat. But anyway, they're talking about fixing Macs, and gosh, that used to be my job every day. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. These are kind of bothering me. There. Not that I'm not festive. I just for some reason the lights all over were bothering. But here we'll make it festive with the snow. There. Magnets on some metal strips to secure the front glass. Yeah, so I and I'm no help here, but I left. No, I guess there were some. That's not true. There were a significant amount of flat screen LCD iMacs when I left, but there were still a few of the CRT iMacs still in use. Anyway, degauss did remove magnetic effects on screen edges. That made the 3 color beams align with the slits. Yes, and I think they would eventually correct themselves. I'm not positive. Or maybe we just stopped paying attention after a while. But anyway, repairing Macs was an interesting thing. And I'm dating myself here, but like I had to make my own Mac cracker. Does anybody remember the Mac cracker or even what I'm talking about? So the old Macintosh, it was like the SE20 or SE30, I mean, like back in that vintage where they looked like oversized shoeboxes with tiny little screens. You had to get a super long screwdriver, and I don't even remember what the tip was. Torx, maybe? I honestly don't remember. But it was ridiculously long, and so you had to make a long, they just called them a Mac cracker because you had to crack it open using that ridiculously long screwdriver. Anyway, some iMacs had the front glass secured with magnets. Oh, okay. Oh, I imagine that was probably more expensive than a strip of glue. So it was probably limited time where they had magnets, but it seems like everything is glue nowadays, especially with Macs. And I don't know about you, but I can never quite get them right. Whether it's an iPhone or an iPad or anything like that, I can never get them to go back down correctly. But anyway, let's see what else. Gosh, stretching my brain here about talking about Macs. That's where I first learned about yum, the command that is kind of ubiquitous with Red Hat. Actually came from Yellow Dog Linux, which was designed specifically to run on PowerPC computers. I don't know if anybody ever ran Yellow Dog Linux, but I did. And they invented Yum, which was Yellow Dog Updater Modified. And then it just ended up going into the standard Red Hat distribution, which is actually pretty cool. Yeah, I really hate all the glue too. And I have oh my gosh, iPhone. So I used to be the guy who, when screens cracked, I would order a new screen and I would fix it because it was a lot cheaper than getting another iPhone for one of my kids or myself, but it was usually one of my kids. I don't know that I've ever really broken a screen dropping it, but and I would replace it. And then friends of ours learned that I was able to replace broken screens, and so they would say, "Hey, will you do that for me?" And so I would order a screen. Until one time, a friend of ours, and I won't say his name, shattered his screen on his iPhone, whatever model it was. It was probably like a 4 or something like that. Anyway, shattered, and I got it, and I cleaned out all the glass, or so I thought. There was a tiny little shard of glass that was still in there. And so after I cleaned everything out and got all that stupid glue out, putting the other thing in, got it connected with the weird little connectors in the bottom, I'm laying that screen in, pressing it down to get the glue to stick, and then crack, because there's that tiny sliver of glass still under there. That was the last screen I ever replaced. No, that's not true. The one that I had to buy to replace that one was the last one that I ever did. So anyway, Yellow Dog Linux. Oh yeah, I forgot it ran on PS3s. I forgot all about that. Oh yeah. So PS3, do you remember when PS3s first came out? Oh wait. Yeah. Still dealing their PS3 hardware. Yeah, so when the PS3 first came out, it was the cheapest way to buy a Blu-ray player. Like, Blu-ray players had just come out, and it was the cool, all the cool kids were doing Blu-ray movies, but Blu-ray players were really, really expensive, and it was cheaper to buy a PlayStation 3, which had full Blu-ray playing capabilities, than it was to buy a standalone. So yeah, I bought a PlayStation 3 for a DVD player. I don't know that we had any game. Did we have any games? I don't even think we had any games for it. We probably ended up buying a game or two, but we literally bought it just to be a Blu-ray player, which was funny at the time. I forgot that they ran Yellow Dog, though. I never did run Yellow Dog on it. Our house actually burned down with that PlayStation 3, like the big black ones, like the original ones, the big chunky black PlayStation 3s. Yeah, our house burned down with that inside it, so I never got around to doing anything other than using it as a Blu-ray player. So anyway, oh yeah, it sucked. Oh, I've never, like I said, I've really never replaced a screen on a phone or an iPad or anything else. I did. No, I didn't do an iPad. My wife has, well, she still has it, just is completely useless anymore. One of the original iPad minis, and I actually sent it in to get it fixed. It wasn't very expensive, and I wasn't gonna try to put in a screen because I think even the replacement screen on it was spendy enough that I didn't want to risk breaking it. So I always had the problem too, where even with the, they came with adhesive, like for phones and stuff, but they always seemed to like kind of pull apart. Like it was never quite as great as the original. And I never had a heat gun. I don't know if you needed a heat gun to really seal them in, but that always makes me nervous too, right? Putting a heat gun on a device. So anyway, now I just buy new phones when they break, and I try not to break them. But at least you don't, at least here in the US, and I know a lot of folks that watch the stream are over in Europe. I don't know how things go there, but here for the longest time, when you signed up with like one of the cell phones or mobile phone providers, there's like the big three. Well, there were four-ish. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint were the four. T-Mobile and Sprint are now kind of one. T-Mobile bought Sprint, and they're in the process of merging. But anyway, that was a sidetrack. The issue was you would buy it, and you'd be locked into that specific mobile provider. And at first, it was forever. Like you bought a phone from them, it was locked to them forever. Then, like some laws happened where after you were no longer under contract with them, if you jumped through the proper hoops, you could get it unlocked. But back then, they didn't include all the different radio frequencies. So, like if you had an AT&T phone that used GSM, I think that's what the whole rest of the world uses, GSM. Yeah. If you had that kind of like iPhone or whatever, you couldn't use it on Verizon because Verizon used, I forget the initials. It'll probably come to me like in 20 minutes and I'll shout it out. But Verizon used a completely different technology. And so even if your phone was unlocked, it didn't matter. So that was always a pain in the butt. It's gotten better now. Most phones, actually all phones, I think, have all the radios, like they work on all the platforms. Everybody uses 4G, and now it's a matter of what bands they support. And most of them are just ubiquitous. They'll work across all of them, but they can still be locked. And so Mason says Apple are doing that in the US with the iPhone 14. No SIM card. Oh, yeah. The eSIM is what they call them here. iPhone 14. Yeah. So the no SIM card thing, and they're allowed to lock it to a particular vendor or provider or whatever. But once the phone is paid off or something, like by law, they still have to be able to, you still have to be able to unlock it and use it elsewhere. But it's always a weird sort of a thing. And there's no way to tell easily by looking at your phone, like if it's unlocked or not. And when it comes to like buying used phones, it gets even more complicated. It's just a real pain in the butt. My favorite thing is to just buy a phone unlocked from the vendor. But of course, then you got to shell out the dough. And so, yeah, that's always tough. Corey, oh, I'm glad to hear that. Yes. And it's not done yet. I'm sorry about that. But, yeah, it will eventually get done. And my hope is that it is a complete series that is useful for people who want to pass. But also the nice thing about both the Linux Plus and the, LPIC 1 and all the others, while yes, it's great, it's designed to help you pass the certification, all the information is genuinely useful. And so even if you don't plan to get a certification, I think that the content and the objectives are very, very thorough when it comes to being useful for a person who just wants to learn Linux and be a Linux person. Yeah, eSIM. That's what, and they've had those for a while. And right now, I think they still have both. So like if you get an iPhone or, and it's not just Apple products, it's others too. Like my, I'm dating myself. This is a Pixel 2. And it has an eSIM and it also has a slot for SIMs. So, it has both. I think they still do that. But anyway, let's see. Back in the day, GSM providers were locked. Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting that they were locked. Yeah, it was, and like I said, they can still be locked, and I'm not sure the mechanism by which they do it, but like if you are financing a phone, like it used to be, they would give you a phone, and then you had to sign like a 2-year contract with them to stay, with them. But now it's different. Now you finance a phone with them at 0 interest, but you don't actually own it until the end of the 2 years. And so they've made it, I think the reason it changed is because if they gave you the phone, they had to unlock it because of the law. But as long as you are not the owner yet, like you're still paying it off, like you're still financing it through them, then they don't have to unlock it until you're done. And the way they do it, at least Verizon, who is currently who we're using, and I'm very unhappy with in my area, the coverage has gotten crappy as heck, but they will, it's like free, like my phone was free, but they just credit your account every month for the amount of what a payment costs. So if I go online, like it still says I owe $250, but every month when they take out my payment, it's from the exact amount that they just credited my account. And so, yeah, it just changed the way they did it. And I'm guessing it's because of the laws regarding being able to lock and unlock stuff. Let's see. Oh, Discord. For anybody who doesn't know, I'll put a link to the Discord here. Start a code, Discord. So if anybody wants to check out that picture, that is our Nerdlings Discord where Mason put the picture, and that's actually under, oh no, it's over here. Let's see. Oh, and there's me. Yeah, that. So I've seen iMacs, and you're generally not supposed to see oh, they don't call them motherboards. What do they call them? logic boards. Is that the Apple terminology? Um, I think that's what they call them. Anyway, yeah. And then there is me on one too. So yeah, if you go into the random chat on the Discord, follow that link. Um, yeah, I'm in there as well. So let's see. Brian, welcome, Brian. I've been following this plus course for a couple weeks. Thanks a lot, Sean. Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be going for a long time because there's a lot of stuff. Oh boy, there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, like I said, it's a thorough learning on Linux, and I've created it. Gosh, I've created a bunch of, because Linux Plus and LPIC 1 used to be the exact same tests. Like they actually, the two companies worked together to you could take the exams and get both certifications at once because they were literally the same exam. But then they split off. It's probably been 3 or 4 years ago now. And so I've created a couple. I guess it was just the one Linux Plus course at CBT Nuggets after they split off. But yeah, I've done the LPIC 1 courses for years before I left CBT Nuggets. And yeah, it's just, I'm always impressed with the thoroughness of which they cover objectives that a lot of them I wouldn't have even thought of. And some of them are things I don't use every day. Like, I can't think of any off the top of my head because I don't use them every day. But for the most part, all the objectives are really, really useful stuff that you learn as well. So that's cool. Yes, logic boards. Good. I'm glad. I thought that was it. I've replaced them and they're so very specific, right? To like the year and like early 2018, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've had to get new logic boards for like our personal hardware and stuff. And it's funny, everything is built in, and it's probably still the same way. Most Apple stuff is not like part replaceable, apart from like maybe memory sticks on some models. But I mean, if something went wrong, it's not like you could put in a new Ethernet card. They were all on the logic board. So yeah, not repairable, replaceable. I know, it's such a pain in the butt. And I imagine that, yeah, I imagine they're worse now than they were back in the day. I mean, so when I first started working at the school district, which, like I said, was an Apple school district, my computer was it was a PowerPC, like 5400. But right after I got the job there, I got a G3 tower, and it was, I mean, the towers are actually pretty cool. It was like bluish color, and you could actually put things in it. Like there were slots, like PCI slots. I think you could put cards in them, and they were actually like computers, which was kind of refreshing. And then the G4 towers came out, and they were pretty similar, but then they started getting more and more, even for Apple, more proprietary and stuff like that. So anyway, oh, hi Shane, welcome. Yeah, the snow is just trying to cheer me up. I don't know why I have the holiday blues, but my family's actually, so my family and like, I mean, my kids are all adults, but they're all here for Sunday brunch, and the two who have significant others brought them, and my granddaughter's here, and they are all downstairs decorating for Christmas. This whole month, I am just a fuddy-duddy. I am just a mopey, depressed human being. And so they are decorating without me because, yeah, I just bring the whole mood down. So you all are stuck with me while my family decorates for Christmas. In the background, I can kind of hear Christmas music playing. So anywho, I no longer look forward to an Apple device. So I'm actually really, really enjoying having Linux on the desktop, but boy, those Mac Studios that's some sexy hardware. I don't think the M2 Ultra things are out. Like they have like the M1, I think it's Ultra. I think it's like Pro, Max, Ultra. I don't know what their terminology is, but like the super high-end M1s are out there. I don't think the M2s are released with those like upgraded CPU/GPUs, but when they do, I'm gonna want one. I know I am, because they're just pretty slick hardware. So anyway, but like I said, right now that everything is working so well on Linux, it's yeah, it's kind of nice. I'm kind of enjoying it, to be quite honest. So I don't really have a motivation to go back. The thing that bums me out are some of the things that don't work, like my Wacom tablet. So I have, I mean, I could maybe hold it up. You can see it. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, maybe. All right. So this is my Wacom tablet. It is the Wacom Intuos. Is that what it is? Intuos 13 HD Pro something or other. Anyway, it was $1,000. It was $1,000. I bought it myself with my own money back when I was working at CBT Nuggets, because the one that CBT Nuggets provided died, and I needed it for work, and I thought I was going to get reimbursed. But anyway, so this is mine, free and clear, and it works fine. But there's something with the Linux drivers where if I put my hand on it in multiple spots, like 2 different spots, some kind of gesture thing that is possibly not even software related. It must be software related because it didn't do it to me in Windows. But with, if I put my hand on it, it locks up and I have to like tap it again in order to release it. And so that's one of the reasons that I haven't had a lot of comics come out, is because drawing has been really difficult. In fact, I probably talked about it in one of the last live streams, but I did buy these, or this thing. Hold on, I am doing something. I bought this glove thing, and it has like an anti-capacitance spot so I can put my hand on there and draw. It just doesn't feel right, and it's awkward. And so yeah, I really haven't been drawing much because of, the screen keeps locking up mid drawing stroke, and it's just super annoying. So anyway, I say all that to say this $1,000 desk, or this display drawing touch thing, I really want to wish I had the cheap model. So right now you can get, it's called a Wacom One. It's the same dimensions. It's 13.3 inches at 1080p resolution, which is exactly what mine is. It's made with a little more plastic and a little less metal, but it doesn't have a touch sensor like finger touch. Like this has like, oh, you can draw, but you can also touch and use it as a touch screen, which I have absolutely no desire to ever want this to be touch sensitive ever. There's no reason I ever want it to be touch sensitive. And so I would normally shut it off, but for some reason it doesn't completely shut off. It does that weird thing. So the reason that I would love to have the Wacom One, which is only $300 brand new now, is because it doesn't have a touch sensor. It only works with the pen, which is exactly what I want. So someday I'll probably do that. I saw on Amazon today, I looked, and there's a used one for a little under $200. That seems even, I mean, that $200, that's $200 more than I have to spend right now. But still, that seems almost reasonable compared to the $1,000 I spent on this dumb one that makes me angry every day. So anyway, that is that. Let's see. Apple hardware is brilliant, runs so good and quick. Yeah. There are some things about Apple that I like. I mean, for a, over $1 trillion company or whatever, they do seem to respect privacy a little more. And I've probably maybe I haven't talked about it here, but the thing about the other big companies like Google and Facebook and those companies we are the product. I mean, like our eyeballs, our attention, our potential to advertisers, that is the product. Whereas with Apple, they can just sell us stuff and not sell our data, and they still make their money. So that part is nice, but they're still a giant company, and I don't know. I would argue to a lesser degree, if that's fair. We are the product, but to a lesser degree than with Google and Facebook and Twitter, because with those, we're the only product. Maybe that's it. And maybe instead of with Apple, we are, you did say also. So yeah, we're also a product, but we're not the only product. Whereas with the others, we're the only product. So anyway, you can get a new XP pen display that's not touch. Oh, so the thing is though, but will it work in Linux? That's the thing. I really don't want to switch from Linux. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about the Wacom one. We'll see. This one, I don't know. There's also, I also fall down the trap of wanting tech things just because they're cool, you know? So wanting an older one is maybe healthy for me because I actually want it for a valid reason instead of because, ooh, shiny. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Oh, Lewis, what'd you get? Again, I have no agenda today, so yeah, love to hear what your new old thing is. My soon-to-be son-in-law. So, my eldest daughter is married and now has a child. My second daughter is engaged now and will be married next fall. So my future son-in-law was up in my office like 10 minutes before the live stream started, and he really likes older games, even though I think he's like 28 years old, but he still likes older games. And so this is like an original NES Nintendo system. I don't know why I'm having a hard time pointing. This is a Sega Genesis original game cartridge. And down here, which you can't see, but in that nook behind the couch or behind the chair is a Nintendo 64. But the cool part about them is I have the, well, they're by Crix. I'll get one just to show you and then I'll catch up on the chat, but so this is it's an EverDrive 64, and they just have an SD card that actually fits in top of them. And the cool thing about them, I have one for the Nintendo 64, for the Sega Genesis, and then I have one for the NES, the original NES. It's not really an emulator. It's a cartridge that allows you to load ROMs, like ROM files, into the actual cartridge interface of an original hardware. So I don't even know what you would call that. A loader, I think, is the proper term. But anyway, it's a loader for each of them, and it allows you to play on the original hardware. So it's like 100% compatibility, but you don't have to swap out cartridges and try to find like old obscure cartridges. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. So he was geeking out about that when he saw those. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's see. Scott's looking at HP 420Z on workstation server. Oh, I am a huge, so my little micro data center that, it's been in videos and stuff that you've probably seen. Those servers are used servers I got from eBay. I actually custom built them with, I think it's Unix Surplus is the store on eBay. And I just, emailed them and they custom built something that I wanted. Cause I wanted very specific hardware, right? I wanted, so much RAM, and I wanted 10 gigabit, Ethernet, and I wanted like I think each of them has 2 enterprise grade SSDs and then one standard like consumer SSD for the boot drive. Anyway, I wanted it very specific, and they built them, but they're very affordable and honestly pretty beefy. So they were still, I mean, they're expensive still, but a fraction of the price of buying new. So anyway, Lewis, Commodore Amiga 1200. That's actually pretty cool. Just the main board, or is any of the other stuff with it? Is there hope of actually getting it going, or is it just the main board? I don't know much about them. I never actually had a Commodore or a VIC-20 or anything like that, much less Amiga. But that's pretty cool though. Anybody a Commodore 64, VIC-20, or Amiga user? Because those always fascinated me, but that was beyond, I was living inner city Detroit during that vintage time. My very first computer that I owned was a TI 99 4A, the Texas Instruments computer. And that was a present from my grandfather. But yeah, I never had a Commodore or anything like that. Let's see. Lewis came with a full-size tower. I'm sorry. You probably had answered that, and I'm sorry, I missed it. Second computer's Commodore 64. That is awesome. Yeah, I've never even seen an Amiga. I did an Amiga. I had like an emulator of an Amiga on something, but since I'd never seen an original, it didn't really have the charm that you would think. It's like, oh, I'm emulating something I've never seen. I have no idea if this is working well. So, anyway. This kid got rid of them. Yeah. Oh, an Atari ST. Yeah, I forgot Atari did make computers, didn't they? Did they make like 800? Is there? I can't remember. My old computers, like the Sinclair days, where there was like competing for the home market. I don't remember any of those. My friend had a Trash 80. Radio Shack TSR 80. TRS, TSR, Trash TRS. Maybe it was TRS. I thought it was TSR. Anyway, he had the Radio Shack 80, and did lots of programming on that. My TI 99-4A had the cassette tape, so like I would load and save things on cassette tape, which was kind of cool. And what's neat, I think it's neat. It's neat in very small circles, but when you would save to a cassette tape, and it's the same vintage that we're talking about here. So if you ever save to a cassette tape and then you just listen to the playback, like as you were loading it, a lot of times it would still play the audio out of the speakers or whatever. It was the same family of sound as connecting with like an old 300 baud or 2400 baud modem. And it makes sense, right? Because using sound to store/transmit data, but it always struck me as like the first time I heard a modem connecting, I'm like, hey, that kind of sounds like when you're loading something off a cassette tape, which makes perfect sense. Anyway, it came with a 500 megabyte hard drive. That's freaking huge. Wait, what came with a 500 meg? Was that the Amiga? Man, I guess Amigas are, I guess, newer than I thought. 500 megabytes is huge for that vintage computer, at least in my brain. Like I said, it must be a lot newer. My first PC class computer, not like the old TI 99-4A where everything was kind of its own beast. They ran BASIC that was similar, but it was all its own thing. My first standard PC was in 8086. It was a Tandy. And it did not have a hard drive. It had 720K floppy. It couldn't even read high density floppy disks. And I would have to boot it off a floppy, and then that's what I took to college with me. So, yeah. Oh, welcome. It is not warm here. If we could meet in the middle, that would be nice. The snow is for cute holiday themed effect, but also there's plenty of snow outside again. The snow melted for us, but then it came back, and it's been so windy. It's only I think it's in the 20s. Let's see right now. It's 31 degrees. Sorry for all of you European folks, 1 degree below freezing. So it's cold, but it's not super cold. That's not really cold for this part of the world, but the wind has been vicious. So it feels just miserable outside. So, yes. And I know the grass is always greener on the other side, and I'm a little jealous of the heat, but, I also don't love super hot heat. So yeah, again, we can meet in the middle. You can have some of my snow. I can have some of your dry heat. We can make a lukewarm soup. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. Let's see. The Amiga 1200 has a standard IDE port. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Okay. So you could just use a standard IDE drive. That's interesting. I guess like I said, I guess they're newer than I thought. So cool. If you get it going, that'll be cool. My first Windows PC, my first Windows PC came with a 4.1 gigabyte hard drive. Holy cow, 4.1 gigabytes. That's more than anybody would ever need. Or so, back in the day, that's what we would think, right? My friend Russ was the computer guy. When we went to college, we both went to Michigan Tech. And I had, actually, it's funny, we went to the same high school, and then we went to the same college. he sold me his computer from high school so that I could, and I used that as my computer that I took to college. And it was that Tandy RL 1000, I think is what it was. And it, like I said, had the 720K floppy disk that I had to boot from. And that was, and with a, what CGA, with the CGA monitor. And that was my computer that I took to college. And then the money that he got from me, along with other money, he purchased a gateway. I think it was I think it was a 386, because I'm pretty sure. And yes, it was a 386 DX, because he had the math coprocessor, which allowed him to run Pavre to make some incredibly awesome graphical images back in the day. So yeah, he had a 386 DX2. I think he only had the DX233, the 33 megahertz, but he had the math coprocessor. I don't think he's watching the live stream right now. But anyway, that was what he had. And he ended up buying a 2.1 gig, I think, a 2.1 gigabyte hard drive, which was just so absurd. It was the most ridiculous amount of storage that anybody had ever heard of. He could have stored the entire internet back then. So, and now, I mean, 2.1 gigabytes is nothing, right? I mean, I have old flash drives laying around on my desk that are 8 gigabytes. Yeah, it's just so funny how time changes. Moore's Law, is that the guy? Moore? Yeah, Moore's Law. I'm pretty sure that's the law where everything like keeps doubling or whatever. I'm behind. Mason, I love the cold. I love the cold and I love the snow, but it's the time. If we got snow, like usually here in northern Michigan, we get our first real snow in November. Like sometimes we'll get a snow in the middle of October, but usually it goes away. It'll melt. It'll still be cold and miserable. Usually we get our first real snow in November, but then our snow doesn't usually go away until like March. And that's too long. If it was like November, December, January, and then started to melt in February. But no, February is our coldest month. And I just, it's too long. The winter is just too long here. So I don't hate the cold. I get weary of the cold. And our summer is so short. But anyway. Amazing. 800 megabyte hard drive, my first hard drive. Oh, yeah. And more into consoles as a teenager. Cool. My first console I got, and this isn't like, no violins playing, but I was a pretty poor kid. And so the only console that I ever got new was when I was a really young kid, the Atari 2600. And that was because like a local, I don't even know what it was. Church, maybe? It was probably a church. Well, we lived in inner city Detroit, and I don't know what it was. I don't know who it was, but somebody like took my family, the welfare family, and they like sponsored them and got us stuff. And so one year for Christmas, I got an Atari 2600, which was just the coolest thing ever. After that, the next console I bought was another used. It was a Nintendo NES. I got it from a rich kid in high school. When I was in high school, he had purchased a Super Nintendo and he didn't want the Nintendo anymore. So he sold it to me. And that was the only other console that I had until I'm like a 30-some-year-old man, where I started, which is a long time ago now. I'm pushing 50. But other than that, I didn't have consoles as a kid. And I didn't have many computers either. It's funny that this is where I ended up. The reason I ended up where I am now, being a Linux guy, that's a long story, but a computer person, is because when I went to Michigan Tech on scholarship, I skipped all my engineering classes. I was going to be an engineer because engineers made decent money, right? And I was the smart kid in school. So I'm like, yeah, whatever I do is going to be fine. I hated engineering. They were doing things with numbers in math class that I didn't think needed to be done. I dropped out of Calc 3. I just hated it with an undying passion. But I was still there. And so I skipped all my engineering classes and I went to the computer lab and kind of fell in love with Unix. In fact, Michigan Tech at the time, Kalish more, Grandpa. Michigan Tech at the time had just purchased a bunch of Next Cubes, which Lewis has worked on, which is just amazing. But my first love of Unix was logging into those Next Cubes because you could you could connect via modem and then telnet into the lab computers, like the individual lab computers that people were using for class. From your dorm room, you could telnet into them and use them while someone else was also doing stuff on it. And so I got to use that computer and like set up my own stuff and learn about Unix on a Nextcube. And I don't know that I ever had access to the actual Next lab. I think I might have, but anyway, this is before my car accident, so I don't actually remember. But yeah, so that's where I learned. I skipped all my engineering classes and learned about computer networking, and ended up where I am today. So anyway, yeah, that's the moral of the story, kids, is go to college and skip class. No, that's not true. That's not the moral of the story. Why didn't I get a no? I don't know, but I will fill you in on all of the learning that you have missed thus far. Are you ready? That was it. Yeah, it's been nothing but a chit and a chat. But welcome, Boris. It's good to see you. Believe it or not, I still have a hard drive that still works, but an IDE instead of SATA makes. Oh. So you guys want to see a little bit of sadness and a little bit of nostalgia? Hold on. Just like look up my background while I'm gone. Oh dear. So yeah, it took me a minute because, I mean, this is the sad part. So these are the hard drives that were in the computers when our house burned down, and I got so this is like a 160 gigabyte drive, but I got these out, but the data was, I think I got the data off some of them, but they were not trustworthy. Like they just not great. But here's another one. This is a 700 or 7200 RPM, 160 gig drive. But this, I don't know if anybody remembers these. So this is three and a half inch like drive bay sort of thing, but permanently mounted inside is a 2.5 inch kind of double thickness. This looks like a current vintage 2.5 inch SAS drive where they're like kind of chunky and thicker. You know what I'm talking about? I actually have one, but I won't go dig it out. But they're that size. But this was it was a Velociraptor drive. I don't know if anybody ever heard of a Velociraptor drive, but it was only 150 gigabytes. But I'm trying to think. I think they were 10,000 RPM, but it does not say on here. But yeah, I'm as sure as I can be that they were 10,000 RPM. These were the fastest drives. Oh my gosh, they were so fast. And so that's what I used in my CBT Nuggets tower that I built for making videos way back in, it would have been 2009, because our house burned down in January of 2010. So yeah, 2009 vintage fastest drives. That was like before SSDs were a thing. And so yeah, I don't know why they had to be tiny, but they were 2.5 inch drive wrapped in a huge heat sink metal 3.5 inch adapter, and they were just screaming fast. So anyway, that's the story of my sad computer time back then. Lewis, my computer is for 286. Oh yeah, 286. VJ2D. Yeah, so my computer was much worse than yours, my friend. Again, I had the 8086 before the 286 and no hard drive. Yeah, my graphics, it was a CGA monitor. And I did a lot on it. Yeah, I did a lot on it. Boris. That was my first PC. Oh, is this? I'm so far behind. Your phone is 120. Yeah, my phone is 256 now, I think. All right, I'm gonna catch up now. This is the part of the show where Sean catches up because he was talking about hard drives that nobody cared about for a long time. It's not very often. 8 hours. Yeah, we get it for like 8 friggin' months. It never snows. Yes, but Lewis, you and your lovely weather. I pushed over 50, or Scott, I pushed over 50. That's funny. I'm not there. I'm close. I'm 47 now, so we're getting there. Good old geeky chat. I'm glad. I appreciate that. I didn't want to not have one, but I didn't have any information. Holy cow! Blast from the past. Linux guy. I don't have it, but I think I mentioned last week. I still have the mug, dude. The second mug you sent me, I still have. And I was using it, I think, in the live stream last week. And I mentioned you, so maybe your ears were burning. Yeah, back from, so Linux guy here has sent me, if you were here last week, I think that's when I had it. It's a mug with a penguin, Tux the penguin on the side. And I broke it. Either I broke it or I lost it in the fire. It's sad. I don't remember which. I think I broke it because I believe I grew a plant in it for a while. Anyway, Linux guy found out and sent another one, which was just incredible. So thank you twice. And I still have it and I still use it. So anyway, that's cool. It's good to see her. Oh yeah, the Raptor drives. Yeah, Velociraptor. Also super cool name for a hard drive. So I mean, good on Western Digital for naming stuff. And yes, they were. That's what I was trying to find. I didn't know if it was 10,000 or 12. I think 10,000 RPM though. I think that was the claim to fame at the time. Like that was the fastest thing ever. Everybody is acknowledging that. Yeah, they're 10K. The ones that I had were 150. In fact, this says 150 gigabytes on it, which is cool. But like I said, I tried to get data off of them, and I think this was a RAID array, but I think like a dummy, I used RAID on the motherboard of the computer. And so it's completely trash data because you never use hardware RAID on your motherboard. And also, I mean, house burned down, but still, nonetheless. Oh, good. Yes. I am glad that somebody remembered. So anyway, I'm glad you made it. Sorry I didn't have the mug today, but that would have been funny. But still, somebody remembered, doggone it. The house burned down. That was rough. That was the worst part is our animals. I mean, that in fact, the only devastating part was that we lost our animals. We had Tigger was a dog who he was, I've written about him actually. If you go to brainofsean.com and you search for Tigger, you'll see the story that I wrote about him. Like it's been a while after he died even. But he was just a cool dog. He was very crippled when we got him. It's actually a good story. You should really look at it. It's a good story. But anyway, Tigger was great. And then we had a young dog, a Yorkshire Terrier named Tux, oddly enough. And we had a cat named Kiki. And then my sister-in-law was living with us because her husband was in the army. And she had a Great Dane and a small mutt of some sort. So our house was full of animals and they all died. It was sad. Yeah. It was really sad. So, anyway, that was the hardest part. It was an interesting growth experience for my whole family, though, realizing that all of the things you have are just stuff. I have a far less unhealthy view of things now. Like, for example, if we have a new car and it gets scratched, I think that I handle that a lot better after my car accident than I would have before because it's just a thing. Things are just things. And so I'm actually grateful for that aspect of losing all of our stuff in the house fire. The pets, though. Oof, that was rough. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, and Scott, I'm sorry, get back to computers so I don't choke up here. Oh, oh. Dun, dun, dun. We have a, so we currently have a Yorkshire Terrier named Phoebe. She was supposed to be a Silky Terrier. A Silky Terrier is a Yorkie purposefully bred with something else. I don't remember what, but they're slightly bigger than a Yorkshire Terrier. They're a little silverier. That's not really a word, color wise, and but the thing about them is they have none of the health issues that Yorkshire Terriers have. Yorkies have horrible problems with their teeth. They often have problems with their backs. And Silkies, kind of because they're a purposeful mutt, they had fewer of those health issues. Anyway, Phoebe was supposed to be a Silky Terrier, and we drove all the way to, where did we drive? Missouri. We drove to St. Louis, Missouri, and to a shelter and picked her up, and she was not a Silky Terrier. I mean, it's not like we're going to be like, no, we don't want this dog. Obviously, we drove all that way, we got her, and we took her home, and we think she was terribly abused. She's just been a messed up dog. She was on Prozac, like adult Prozac, for years because she had such anxiety issues. Now she's getting old. She's like, well, let's see. House burned down in 2010. It's going to be 2020. She's about 13 years old. That's getting pretty old. And so, but yes, she's doing good. Anyway, trying not to think about our dogs. Our two dogs that we got after our house fire are now like 13 years old, and that's getting up there for dogs. So don't want to think about that either. Yeah, I appreciate that. It has been a long time, but that was the toughest part. That was the hard part about losing the house, was the pets. All the stuff was just stuff. Even stuff that I thought was irreplaceable, it's just stuff. So, yeah. How does it feel to be a grandpa? Interesting. So, it's cool. It doesn't feel any different, honestly. The weird part for me is that my daughter is a mother. That's weirder to me than being a grandfather, which doesn't make much sense, I know, but it's weird to see my daughter be a mom to a tiny baby. And like when the baby cries or, whatever, the buck stops with my daughter. Like she's the ultimate, she's the caregiver. That part's weird. So, congratulations to you as well. It's interesting to see. It'll be interesting for you to see your daughter as a mother. And so that's been the most interesting part for me. The first order for me to World of Linux DevOps. Oh, some good resources, labs, or anything to practice Linux or DevOps. First of all, thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you're still interested after being introduced to it by me. I'm curious, like from Linux Journal or from CBT or from YouTube. Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm just curious. But as far as resources go, I'm a huge fan of setting up some sort of a virtualized environment and playing with it. If you have a computer that can run VirtualBox on it, run stuff there locally. If you have a separate computer, you could install something like Proxmox and set up virtualization there. And you can also learn some stuff about networking while you do it. But hands-on is just the best way to learn. Just break something and then fix it. And if you can't fix it, start over. And yeah, virtual machines have made learning Linux so much better and so much easier. So yeah, I highly recommend that. And then if you do use a virtualization system like VirtualBox, take regular snapshots so that if you do break it, you can't fix it, you can always like revert back to the snapshot, if that makes sense. I guess that would be my advice. So yeah, those who don't know, Shane is native to the land where my dog's name came from, and I'm sure that my Americanization of Yorkshire is just absolutely offensive, so I apologize. I wouldn't even know how to say the town that you live in. But speaking of towns and pronouncing them, is it Welsh that some of the words are and towns are? Anyway, I saw a newscaster, a weather person from some British or some broadcasting thing, say the name of a town that couldn't fit on the screen because the text was so long, and he just spouted it out. That was just awesome. So, yeah, I apologize for just how American my English is. Being a grandpa's great, getting a ton of fun. So yeah, and obviously I loved my kids when they were babies. I love my kids now. I love my granddaughter, and she's a baby. I really get into kids when they are old enough to have even the most basic rationalizations with, like, building something and communicating. I enjoy that. I really like once kids are old enough to communicate and have even the slightest bit of logical thought into what they're doing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Emmy, or Dragon. If you follow me online, I call her Dragon as a nickname. Yeah, as she grows, I'm looking forward to that. Yes, we did. Oh, so Scott, yeah, we do. We have a I'm hesitant to say it now. Our Yorkie has a friend. We got Zoe, who is a Labradoodle, which is just a custom mutt. She's 3/4 poodle, 1/4 Labrador. Huge dog. I mean, compared to Phoebe, who's the little tiny Yorkie. And but yeah, they've been together their whole lives. After we got Phoebe from the shelter. So yeah, it has helped a lot. If one of them goes, it's going to be rough to see, like when one goes first, it's going to be rough to see how the other one handles it. I'm not looking forward to that. CBT Nuggets. Okay, cool. Yeah. In fact, there's still some of my stuff on CBT Nuggets now. So, it's not fresh because I haven't been there for, 2 years now, I think. Because let's see, my 18 months of Cobra, which is health insurance eligibility you can get for 18 months after you leave a company. That just expired at the end of November, but I was still on that insurance for several months because I got moved to a different part of CBT Nuggets, or I was no longer a trainer. So it's been about 2 years since I've made training for CBT Nuggets. That's been so long. Anyway, let's see. I appreciate that very much. I like teaching. My favorite part of working for CBT Nuggets, and now for doing YouTube videos, has always been taking things that are intimidating or confusing or things that people are afraid of, to be quite honest. And I've been there too. And to try to break them down so that they're as simple as they are. I mean, everything is, Jeff Kish, who is actually currently a trainer at CBT Nuggets, one of his lines is everything is figure outable. And it's a great motto because once you figure it out, like for me the other day, I had never done multipath in my life. And so I figured it out, and of course it wasn't too difficult once you knew what was happening and how to configure it and stuff. So anyway, I really like taking away the mystery and the fear from Linux and open source, which is generally, the learning curve is kind of steep. So, and that's right, Mason, you're also from Wales. All right. 25 years. We're getting old. We're getting old. Y'all are okay. Yes. I have no idea if it was that. I'm going to find the video. No, if I can find it very quickly. YouTube. Let's see. See if my Google foo on YouTube is good. Weatherman. Boom, first hit. It was exactly what I was looking for. Oh, it's from CNN even. Okay, that's kind of funny. Okay. Here, I'm going to paste the link. It's actually a CNN link that is, here, I'm going to put it in the chat here. I think I pasted it in. Yeah. Yep. And the guy just rattles it off so amazingly well. Yeah, what is it? That, oh my, that is the exact one. Yes. Mason, I'm sorry. I was just looking at the description on the video. That is that is the town. And he just, boom. You can say it. See, that's just impressive. I can't even say Yorkshire properly. Yorkshire. So I've heard somebody say kind of like a shortened version of like Yorkshire, but I have no idea if that's more properer. And then there are things like that here in the U.S. too, like, and some of it is how you just say things locally. I've actually never been there, but down in Louisiana, New Orleans, which is how people in the Midwest often say it, but it's just New Orleans, kind of like mushed together. And so if you visit New Orleans and you just say it like kind of one long word, like New Orleans, that's how it's pronounced down there. So, and I mean, I still sound like I'm from the Midwest saying a Southern word, but nonetheless. So this is something interesting, y'all from Europe. We here in the U.S., I mean, we have accents, and I'm sure that we're so full of ourselves that everybody is familiar with at least some of our accents, like the Southern accent, and my accent is very Midwest. I think the Midwest accent is kind of what you hear on like the news and stuff. Like if you watch like NBC, CNN, ABC, all those things, it's generally this type of accent that is the kind of accent you hear. But we have very little understanding of the accents across the pond. So yeah, we just like I couldn't pick out anybody's accent in anywhere in England from like any part. And I know you're like, oh, that sounds very London, or that sounds, no idea. No idea at all. Oh yes. I appreciate that. I don't plan on stopping. Again, I hope to keep doing this, and I hope eventually to do it like full time, where I could do some more things too. I want to actually do more than just make videos in my spare time. My long-term master plan to take over the world would be to provide some ability for our community to connect with each other, to help with employment, and to make ourselves employable so that we can live the lives that we want to live in a happy way. I don't have that all fleshed out, but I have plans, vague long-term plans. But making videos is something that I enjoy, and it's one of my few skills. I don't mind talking into a camera and a microphone, so I'm not going to quit anytime soon. Okay. I'm sorry, you're probably already gone because I'm behind. Have a Merry Christmas yourself. It's good to see. I'm glad you were able to stop by. That's awesome. Oh, Mason, you're probably already gone too. Sorry. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I didn't have anything to say, and it's past time. Holy cow. Okay, I'm going to scroll to the bottom. An accent with you. Yeah, so my lack of accent is kind of the standard American fare. Like, I think this is why this is generally what you see on news channels, is the Midwest. This is a Midwest accent, and this is what is no accent to a lot of people. So anyway, all right, terrible English like it. Lewis is easy to talk to. I'm just saying. Yeah, I've video chatted with him. Easy to understand. Understands what I say. So don't let him fool you. Yeah, we gotta go. Technical problems here over there. Exactly. Yes. It's going to be awesome. Nerdlings for life. Bye everybody. I'm going to go. I'm so sorry that I kept you late. It's 5 minutes past. So, I will, continue to do the things I do. And I hope everybody has a great day. We learned absolutely nothing today apart from just had fun. So thanks for geeking out with me. I feel happier than I did, when we started. I was kind of blue and now I'm not. So, I'm green now. On that note, have a great evening, everybody. And now is the awkward time where I look for how to stop the stream. So, talk to everybody later. Hope to see you next time.